Here we go, Isshinryu Today.
All right, folks, welcome to Isshinryu Today at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Sunday afternoon. You know what that means. It's time for Isshinryu Today. 2 hours of the best Isshinryu program going on the market today. Brought to you live from Lexington, North Carolina. I'm the host of the program, Richie Calfars. Glad to be back. We got a special presentation. First, let me apologize. All the songs you hear on the program, folks, are songs we don't use for any monetary purposes or anything. It's just for training purposes. We wanted to get the AC/DC song, Thunderstruck, for our special guest this evening. If you're from that school, that has a very good relevance to you, so you know what we're talking about. But we weren't able to do that. They had some kind of restrictions on it, so we do apologize for that. We did the best we could to try to get some AC/DC songs, but they were unavailable. So, but welcome to Isshinryu Today. We got a great show lined up for you this evening. A legend in the Isshinryu community and all over the world. We're taking it back to the School of Hard Knocks here, folks, and that's what we're used to. So, pun intended there this evening, and I'll explain a little bit later. But let me welcome my co-host to the program so you can go through the shout-outs. And then we'll get our special guest on the wire. But folks, call into the program tonight. We got an exciting show. You may have some questions for the sensei, some things about your training, some activities and tournaments and things that are going on. Man, I'm just telling you, talk about working martial artists. This school really does it. The instructors of the school and all the instructors in that school that really work hard and have an awesome program. But call into the program at 619-924-9759. I look forward to talking to you live right here on Isshinryu Today. Ladies and gentlemen, our co-host, Bambina.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our program. Again, that call-in number is 619-924-9759. Our first shout-out tonight goes out to our founder, Shimabuku Sensei. All the work that went on over these 63 years now, look at the relevance of our practice. Everybody is focused. Everybody has a goal in mind, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So that we have to give a shout out to our founder because he made it all happen. So thank you, Sensei. Our next shout out goes out to our sponsor here, and that is Team Kia. Check out the website, folks, www.teamkia.wixsite.com/TEAM-KIA. Type it in just like that. Pull up the website. We got a message box on there if you'd like to be a featured guest on our program. That's a great way to communicate with us. So check out all of the events that are going on out at Team Kia. It's a very busy dojo. And that this year, I know that they're focused on training real hard. So if you're in for a good workout, stop out at the dojo, and we would definitely get you sweating. So check out that website again, www.teamkia.wixsite.com/TEAM-KIA. Folks, our next shout out goes out to the first generation students of the founder, both American, Okinawan, whatever people that studied directly with our founder and helped Isshinryu Karate become what it is today. We want to give them a big shout out. I refer to them as those first generation students that brought the curriculum home so we could study it, learn it good enough so we can teach it and pass it on and keep that dream alive that Shimabuku Sensei had. And then also to learn the customs of both sides, the Okinawan as well as the American. And that has happened. and it continues to happen. Okinawans come to America all the time, and Americans go to Okinawa all the time. Now, it's not an easy trip, but if you can afford it and you can get it done in your lifetime, they say it is something that you should do. So we do recommend it here on the program. So thank you, first generation students worldwide, whoever studied with, thank you. Thank you so much for training those grand black belts and having them go out onto the pounding the pavement, as we say, and getting students and recruiting students and building schools. And we continue to do that. Isshinryu dojos are becoming more and more popular in my lifetime. And that means a lot to me, because that means that the founder's dream is being realized every time we bow in and bow out on an Isshinryu karate session. So thank you to all of those first generation students and their grand black belts. Yes, Sensei, that's right. It does deserve recognition, because we have a saying here on the program, and that is, you must always remember where you come from in order to know where you're going. And it's a solid indication to us as practitioners that the first generation students, their grand black belts, and then all the practitioners now that have come forward to this point, 63 years, that's a body of work that should be recognized and praised every day, because of the efforts, the determination, learning. You have to learn it. You have to actually learn it to be able to teach it. That's a great commitment. And when people make a commitment like that in life, thank you. Especially when it comes to Isshinryu Karate. All right, so let's kick off our program, Renshi. I'm going to throw it back to you, and we have a great marquee tonight. So if you'd like to read some of it, it comes right off of their website, which I'm sure you're going to give. And that my final word will be, folks, tonight you want to call into the program, listen to us live. Even if you don't want to speak on the, live on the radio, that's fine. But if you do, just press 1 on your keypad, and that will alert us that you have a question or would like to make a comment. So, Renchi, I throw it back to you.
All right, folks, there you go. Yeah, we have a saying on the program. Let's always remember where we come from in order to know where we're going. This school is an example. The sensei that we have, Sensei Mickey Heath, is coming to the program this evening from the School of Hard Knocks in North Carolina. The School of Hard Knocks. Now, listen to this. This is coming straight from their website. Now, folks, it just gives me chills reading it, because I know this individual's background a little bit. I know where he come from, and he's always kept that with him. And this school is phenomenal, and they've got some great world-class tournaments going on. And speaking of the world, he's going to speak on that. But this comes straight from their website, and then we're going to bring our featured guest on with true honor. One main purpose at the School of Hard Knocks Martial Arts is to build a family environment. Keeping that credential alive and long from where we come from is most outstanding. Their philosophy is to use the martial arts as a tool to teach children about physical and mental life skills, which mold them and help them to become successful human beings and real-life champions. Folks, you couldn't say that any better than that. That is outstanding. Our adult programs offer traditional martial arts, hand-to-hand combat, weaponry, and fitness to help you achieve a superior level of fitness and self-defense. We strive to teach our adult students to be physically fit, knowledgeable, and aware of day-to-day life situations. We're training in martial arts, folks, but the whole goal behind this is to prepare you for life. You're your worst enemy, and you're constantly in a battle with yourself. So these ideas and concepts and principles are still alive in the schools going today, and I say thank you for that. That's important. All our classes are tailored to fit each individual's ability. Training that fits, whether your goals are to train for fitness, self-defense, self-discipline, confidence, respect, self-esteem, competition, or fulfillment, you can find it as a student in the martial arts at the School of Hard Knocks. They believe that cross-training is several of all our systems and the absolute best way to receive the best physical and mental aspects there is to offer. Join us tonight for a roundtable type discussion with a very honored guest that I'm going to bring on right this minute. Call into the number or download the podcast, 619-924-3333. I'd like to bring to the table Sensei Mickey Heath. Welcome to our program, Sensei. It's a true honor to have you a part of Isshinryu Today this evening.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad to be a part of it. I really appreciate you letting me be on tonight.
Yes, sir. It's a true honor to have you here, and make you jump right at home. It's just a topic, conversation of the senseis, and hopefully we'll have some of the students come in and share some of their stories later on in the program. But Sensei, I guess to get the thing started off right, please share with our guests, we got a saying, we always remember where we come from in order to know where we're going. Let's share with our listeners the very first thing. How did you get introduced to the martial arts, and what was going on during that time?
At the time when I first met my sensei, Eric Leiter, I was bodybuilding at a gym, and he came to train, lift weights at the gym where I was at. And always, everybody was interested in martial arts, but I never really had a chance to get acquainted with anyone. And just us lifting weights together, he started the program, and then from there it kind of blossomed. I left the bodybuilding aspect and went more to the martial arts aspect of it.
Just kind of fell in love with it at the very beginning, huh?
Yeah, everybody always said, you love the martial arts movies, and I was always a big Bruce Lee fan, so I'm sure he got a lot of people into martial arts over the years. But when I met with him, they left me, he moved to North Carolina from Long Island, New York, and so we hit it off right off the bat. Once I knew that he was into martial arts, and he did a demonstration for the gym, and it was, like I said, I guess it was love at first sight.
Well, yeah, Bruce Lee got a lot of people in guaranteed. Back then, since we didn't have the tools that we have available now, we have the only thing we had was the movies, Kung Fu Theater, maybe, and Black Belt magazine. In order to do that, you had to get out and go to the store and get the magazine, or I don't even know if they had mail order then when I was training, but that's what got me motivated to get in there. And then once I started, man, I loved it. Share with our listeners what type of things that was going on during that time that you can remember. I know I remember my first day. I was unconscious the first three times during that day. But what type of things was going on in the dojo at that time?
We kind of hit it lucky because we were the first ones. I was one of the first students that started with Sensei Lapper when he opened up his school here in Mount Airy, North Carolina, which is right above the mountain. And I can remember, the biggest thing I remember is like the basics and the Isshinryu fist. That was kind of, really new deal to me because I'd been in a few scraps before I ever got into martial arts. But the vertical fist and the two-bone block was always intrigued me. I said, wow, that's really different. And at the time, I didn't, when you thought any martial arts, jiu-jitsu, kung fu, whatever, it all was karate. That's the biggest thing that I got to realize, okay, Okinawan karate and Japanese karate and, the difference. And feeling that vertical fist penetrate my solar plexus, that kind of, I had to learn how to breathe again after a few minutes.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Well, those things are so important because those are the concepts and the principles that was brought to us. And, during that time, it was hard to find a school during that time because it wasn't here. It was pretty much non-existent during that time. So if you found a good school, which they always did back then in my opinion, but if you found a school, it wasn't no easy task to hang in there. It was tough, especially if you were young. I was young when I started. I'm sure you was too. How old were you, Sensei, when you started training?
I was 26.
There you go. See, and I know you're probably, 29 now. Is that correct?
That's right, yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's been a few years, isn't it? So, back in that time, things were different. We didn't have the internet. We couldn't look up things. We couldn't communicate through video with people. and things like that. That the tools that we have now, which we'll talk about later on. Let's talk about, what happened, what cured you, and when did you realize that you was...
What the martial arts has done for me and how it has changed my thinking, what I was doing, where I was going. I wanted to be able to share that knowledge, and really I was wanting people to feel about me the same way I felt about my thing today.
And that's so important because that become a goal of yours early on. Not early on in your training. It takes a while to get to ground, but we can look back and say now early on in your training because trying to figure all this out, trying to learn these moves, trying to learn the katas, trying to fight, trying to compete. That's a lot on an individual. And then it hits you somewhere along the line. Wait, I've got to get this message beyond here. I got to extend our knowledge to other people, and I got to be responsible for that. So I commend you on that because that's kind of what happened to me. I think I was doing a kata, and then I finally understood some of the moves. I went over there and practiced it, and a light bulb went off, and I just stopped. And Hunchy looked at me, and he was like, "Did you forget your kata?" I was like, "No." I said, "Something just happened to me." And it's one of those things that you can't explain. And he was like, I said, "Can we talk about it?" Because I was scared to death. And I promise you, I was scared. And we went back there and we talked about it, and he said, "What? No, well, just get out there. I want to see you finish the kata." So I went out there and I finished it. And then after class, we talked a little bit, and we started gearing more toward, how this could happen for me. If I really wanted this to happen, because sometimes we get these crazy ideas. I did when I was young, get these crazy ideas. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do that. And then to find out that wasn't really what I really wanted. So, but standing the test of time, I think it was a heartfelt desire, and it was really pulling me that way. So it's great to hear you say that. Isshinryu, you got any questions early on about Sensei's training early on?
Mentioned something about Long Island. I happen to be from Long Island, and when the marquee was getting made, I believe Renchi Forrest said to me that you may have something to do with the Nagel lineage. Is that true?
Well, we have Sensei McGrath trained with Sensei Trim, and Sensei Trim started with Nick Adler to begin with. And then he trained till, I think, third degree, and then he moved to Louis Lazat, and then later he became a student of A.J. Advincula, and that's who he followed up, and that's really who we follow now is A.J. Advincula.
Right. So that's how it went down. So actually being from the Adler line, I know that Sensei Adler first trained with Sensei McGrath and Sensei Sutphin in that Jamaica Queens dojo, where they had the affiliation with Dr. Moses Powell. But then moving on, knowing that you basically come from the same school I do. Because if you started with Sensei Adler, Sensei Adler did move on to Sensei Nagel, but I can say that he started with Sensei McGrath.
Okay.
In the Isshinryu line. So it's interesting. When you said Long Island, I knew that there must be some tie between you and I. Because on Long Island, there were only a couple of people at that level that were teaching, that would have students then to go on to train someone like yourself, Sensei.
Right, and like I say, there's still, like our lineage, there's some dojos, and still in Long Island, John Del Vecchio and Long Weon is...
Sensei Lazat. Sensei Lazat was with the original crew with Don Nagel at that New Bridge Street in Jacksonville, North Carolina dojo. And then, of course, when you said Sensei Advincula, I mean, everybody knows me. That's great because Sensei Rosenthal, one of my dojo mates that I work out with down here, he also follows Sensei Vincent.
Yes, like I say, it was about 88 when I first met Sensei Winkler, and then in the mid-90s I had him in a couple of times for seminars. So.
Well, it's just, it's amazing how when you use the word family on your website, that you build a family environment at your school, at your dojo. It's amazing how small the family really is when you look at, I guess, on an individual basis, student by student. And that we all come from the same place. It's really amazing, especially here in the States. There are certain first generation students here in the United States that really stand out. Obviously, Sensei Long, Sensei Nagel, Sensei Armstrong, and Sensei Mitchum. Those are the four people that many of the black belts have come onto the program and praised their work. And thank God, I think Sensei Advincula may be coming back to North Carolina in 2019. So stay tuned for that, folks.
Good. Yes.
Carry on.
Outstanding. Well, let's go into announcements. So you've been training for a while. You've been now you've got an interest in teaching, and you're thinking about getting out there. So one of the best ways I know back then was competitions. Getting into some competitions and that type of atmosphere really gave you a chance to socialize. We have a social networking program then, but it really gave you a chance to really get out of your school, get into another areas to where other people were at, and it gave you a chance to socialize and perform some of the things that were going on in your dojo as a display of this is what we're doing, and this is what they're doing, and you really got an idea to really learn and grow and meet new people. Now, I say this because I know this is a real big part of your life, and I've got it geared toward coming up to the present current events. But in order to get there, we got to touch on the past. I know that you were on the mainstream. I know that already. So, of course, I was in that era. But talk about some of your competitions when you got into competition. What were they like back then, and what were some things going on? And let's just talk about a little bit of the competition history. Now that you got some experience under your belt, starting to get out there a little bit. What were some of the places you went, and some of the people you met at competitions?
We used to go to Burlington Coal Mansion had a tournament that we always took in, and there was Karate International used to have some tournaments. Well, actually, my first tournament that I competed in was a Karate International Open tournament that they held in Winston-Salem. I was a green belt.
Yeah.
And we did, like I say, had the katas and weapons and the point sparring. And the dojo, we did the point sparring, but most of ours were continuous. We wouldn't really stop for the point. We were looking for the sweeps and takedowns. And then I started doing some tournaments with Jeff McGregor in Danville, Virginia. We used to get the circuit around through there. And then we met up with Professor Tony Maynard. Sensei Latsa started training with him. And he started having some competitions of continuous action, and we kind of like, because that's the way we trained, and we were doing the takedowns and the sweeps. But when we go to the point tournaments, we couldn't do any leg sweeps, so he was all, they say no leg sweeps, and okay, all right. Then we kind of like this format of the continuous and allowing takedowns, because we were just doing Isshinryu at the time, but the sweep and the takedowns. When we started doing the sport jiu-jitsu, we just put names to it, so, hey, heck, let's just jump in on this. So that kind of gave us the start in the continuous format.
Yes, sir. Well, see, you mentioned, man, you just brought back history in my rapport there, because I remember the American Open in Danville, Virginia, under Jeff McGrath. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget that one because I used to go every year there, and during that time they had a lot of events that you could do. It wasn't just Kata weapons, Kumite. They had musical Kata, musical weapons. They had breaking divisions, self-defense divisions. They had all kinds of different divisions. And one of those tournaments is one of the tournaments that I broke my leg at Jeff McGregor's, and it was in the self-defense division. And Hans, you're going to appreciate this because my attacker was Eddie Wilson, and I went to throw Eddie, and my foot got hung in the match. The match separated because they had those old stick-together mats. The match separated, and I did an old judo move. Went to take him down, and we went down, and we went one direction, and my leg went the other. I don't know if you remember that tournament or not, but I'll never forget it. But that was at the American Open, and I think I had to miss the next tournament, which was at Fort Lee Military Base, the Petersburg tournament, which was immediately following that by Lewis Clay. I missed that tournament following that, and then and then you talk about Tony Maynard, man. What a school, and he's still going, man. I'm telling you, I've seen some of his stuff where he was traveling around here and traveling around there, just outstanding stuff. And in North Carolina, that's what it was about. I mean, you had you had Danny Glover School in Burlington. We were starting to get into the jiu-jitsu and the continuous fighting and the takedowns and the leg sweeps and stuff. So I remember that era because that was my era. But that led you to something, didn't it, Sensei? It led you to something to maybe getting the opportunity to represent our country on a professional level through all that training and all those competitions.
Yes, it did. Like say, when we met Professor Maynard, and he put on a couple of international tournaments. He would invite people from other countries, and we'd have competitions. And the first one we had was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and then that was with Great Britain, and it was basically we had an open tournament, and then we had a United States team versus a Great Britain team, and then we had another one the following year in Winston-Salem, and it was an open, and it was against the Canadians, and actually that was the first time that Sensei Eric Latza got a submission during the first submission ever got in a sport jiu-jitsu tournament.
I love it. Okay, Sensei, well, what were some of the guys' names that were maybe on the team with you? Because when you say these names, people are like, oh my God, yeah. So let's throw that out there already, get that on the table. So what were some of the guys' names that were on this USA team?
Oh boy, there's of course, Sensei Glatzel, there was Mark Hooker, and this is this year's, in 1988, the team I was on, there, Mark Hooker, Sensei Glatzel, Ernie Boggs, Brian Hebert, then we kind of skipped up to and then years later, in 92, that was the team I wasn't on. H.B. Henry was the coach, and you had Scott Shamlin, Mark Aycock, Ruth Ann Shamlin, Craig Oxley.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, see, folks, so all these people are kind of like family with us. And I think Mickey Heath was on there, but he had suffered an injury about like I did and wasn't able to be on there. But I wanted to ask him about that, if he feels comfortable talking about his injury, because that was a life changer for me, and I know it had to be a life changer for you too.
Yes, it's like now, it's been many years back, but it was one of those things, like you say, I was sparring with, his name, Darrell Johnson from Anchorage, Alaska, and he went he caught a roundhouse kick I threw and went to sweep me, and my foot got caught in the mat, and knee buckled, and that was the beginning of that. So, and then finally, years later, I had to have surgery, but I put it off as long as I could, and then that's the reason that year I wasn't on the team. And then from there, I became assistant coach under Ernie Boggs, and then that's where I met Bob Steins and Warren Owsley, Chris Blanky. The names just goes on and on. You know.
I love it. Well, I feel your pain there, brother, because when it happened to me, I was real active. I was fighting for Team Budweiser. Then I went to Team Paul Mitchell, and then I was fighting for these teams. Then at that time, young in my life, and then my leg broke, and things took a different direction for me. It really did, because I felt myself. I wasn't able to do the things. I wasn't able to perform the things at a level that I could. I mean, it took me a long time to come back off of that, but I didn't quit by no means. And I did go to the doctor. I mean, I went to the doctor, but I didn't go. I was put off surgery like you did. And then I was kind of glad I had it done because I was afraid if I had surgery, they'd tell me I couldn't train him ever again. And that wasn't going to happen. I trained sitting on my tail, you know. But it was kind of one of those things. But it was a life-changing thing. But then, like what you said, it turned to a different era. Now I have an opportunity to where, okay, I've done my competition type thing now. I've got a good history background. And I've met a lot of people. But now I need to start giving back and getting some other people. And thank God they got some new flooring. Because I've heard so many people this happened. The flooring was terrible. It got so bad, Sensei, that later on in the tournament, they just took the floor up. It was better just to hit the floor than it was to have to deal with the injuries of getting caught in between these mats and things buckling on you. And I just seen so much happen with that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like at Jeff McGregor's tournament. One year we did self-defense. He didn't have the mat, so we did it 4 throws and sweeps and everything just on the gym floor. But you know, that's kind of the way we were trained anyway. So he was okay. Yep.
Yep, exactly. So, well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, tell us how you got started with the School of Hard Knocks. When did you decide to open up a school and start, accumulating your students and start trying to give back? And let's talk about some of the things that you did early on that are still going today, because it's a phenomenal testimony, folks. This gentleman's got a whole past of just great testimony he could talk about for hours and hours. So how did you get started with the school?
1992, actually, it was a job change. What happened was I kind of went to switch jobs, and then the job wasn't there, so I said, well, I always wanted to try to open up, so now's my time. So I opened up the School of Hard Knocks, and the name, me and my wife were sitting here, and she said, well, what do you want to call it? And Sensei Max always, whenever he wanted to demonstrate a technique, how it would really work on someone, he always called me up. So, and I said, well, I always got my hard knocks. So I said, let's call it School of Hard Knocks.
Yes, they was hard knocks too, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. And he would always say, well, now, when you do this technique full blast, this is what's going to happen to a person. And he'd say, all right, Mick, and that's what he called me. Mick, all right, Mick, come up. And so I'd be the one. So this is how the body's going to react when you do this or do that.
Well, someone's got to take one for the team.
That's right. That's right. And so, like I said, I started in 92, and I started in a little building, and then he did real well. And again, Sensei Latson was teaching the Mount area, and I was in Title Mountain, which we were about 15 minutes apart. So I kept out of respect, I kept all of my advertising and everything kind of south of where he was at. And then, so years went on, and I moved to a different, bigger location, and got in with the team and training the team, and and then picked up students. At one time, I was over 100 students when I was teaching full time. And then my daughters got a little older and going to school, and they trained, and they both got their black belts, and so they wanted to do other sports. So I kind of cut back, and actually I went from teaching full time, so I started working and only teaching part time, but still had my same schedule. So and it's just kept going for years and years, and I I want to keep the same name, School of Hard Knocks, because that's what I feel, as you come up through in life, not only in the martial arts, but you're going to have some hard knocks in life coming up through in anything. Even if you have a good life, there's going to be down times, and you got to be able to come through those things. And that's what I try to get across, with my teaching. And as we were talking about teaching earlier, Sensei Latsa gave me when we was doing swordsmanship, he gave me a paper, and he said I was reading on it about different things, and it said the true mark of a great instructor is to make a student better than he is, and that's my goal as I teach each one of my students is to make them better than I am.
Outstanding. See, folks, that's what we're talking about. If you listen to the program, dial into the program, 619-924-9759. Sensei, he just laid it out there for you, folks. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what we're in this for. We life as a way of not caring whether you make it or not. Life will take you to chew you up, throw you in the side ditch, and then go grab someone else. What we're teaching is fundamental concepts and principles so that you can succeed in life. Now, people think winning is succeeding, Sensei, but that's not necessarily the case. If you survive and you learn, you've succeeded. You've got more knowledge than what you've ever received as if you were just locked in a room somewhere. You got out there. Life's going to knock you down. You're going to run into things that just don't go your way. No matter how hard you try, you do things the right way, it's just not going to work out for you. But the lessons you learn from that is the valuable lesson to continue on and use the tools and teach and look for someone else that may be getting ready to go down the same road you did. And you say, hey, wait a minute, I've been there. Can I share this with you? That's what Sensei he's talking about, folks. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, what are some of the things that's going on? We'll get up to the current date that's going on. Oh, Hanshi Vini, did you have anything about that era that was going on, because you were actively involved in some competitions that was going on in the Long Island area? We were busy in North Carolina. That's what I liked about, I'm from North Carolina, and that's what I liked about North Carolina is we were always busy and doing the work in North Carolina. So, Hanshi Vini, do you have any questions in that aspect of the show?
Well, he did mention the name Mangione Sensei, and I do know that Mangione Sensei trained with Bohan Sensei, competitive, if you will. Sensei Bohan had a big following, so he would bring students up north. Sensei McGrath had a big following. He would bring students down south. And Sensei Mangione, he was just a very special guy to us. And that when you mentioned his name, it just brought back some great memories. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. He was a great man. I had a lot of respect for him, and also a very good friend.
Yes.
Outstanding. Outstanding. So, if I was a student and I wanted to come to be a member of the School of Hard Knocks, and I was interested in training them, what's some ways that I could get in touch with you, and what's some things that I could look forward to as coming to the school?
Well, you could, say, we could go to our Facebook. Usually we get a lot of people off our Facebook page and the website, and usually that's where I get most of my calls. And when you start, what you do is you come in, and usually I let people have like a 2-week trial, and all they need to do is just come in, and we teach them the basics and show them some basic self-defense moves, and they get to work with some of our black belts that we have, and we try to include them as much as we can to get the family atmosphere that we have, and that's what I try to get across to everyone is, and every class I run our lineage down, and I run down that we are our brother and sister keeper, at the School of Hard Knocks. And I want to understand that, and that you don't leave your attitude at the door. We're not there to prove how tough we are, and we don't want you to try to prove it. We want to work together and make all of us better.
Amen. That's right. That's quality value there, folks. You can't put a price tag on that. But that's real valuable. I do kind of the same thing in my school, Sensei. The same exact thing, because in today's society, and we're talking about today now, the current events, it's different. It's different. Yeah, everybody wants to be a UFC superstar. Everybody wants to be a cage fighter, but little want to do the work to be able to even qualify to be on that level, because something overnight. They want something quick. Can I get this quick? How long does it take to get this? Can I get this quick? What would be your advice to something like that, Sensei? Because you know as well as I do, it ain't gonna be given to you. You don't have to put forth the work. And what makes you any special than anybody else? We're a team here, and we work together. And you'll get there in your due time. But this is something that I can't make you a superstar in a week. I didn't become what I was in a week. I mean, this is my 30th year into it. So. And what happens is they take that outside the dojo. They take it outside the door with your name on it and say, today's society is totally different. I've had to deal with this a couple of times myself. You're in here training for a reason, and the reason you're training in here is to make yourself a better person. The martial arts is we have the martial and we have the arts, and when we combine that, we call it martial arts. We can't leave the martial out. So we've got to teach you that these are life honed-in skills for you to survive. We're going to teach you things that could cause serious damage to another person. But we're also going to teach you you're not allowed to use it. You have to have control over yourself. And when we start seeing that, we'll start giving you the stuff that's going to make you a champion. But we've got to get that trust in you. I mean, I can't come in here and teach you how to kill somebody. I can teach you how to kill somebody immediately. But will I? No, because I've got to see you put forth the work. You got to take your hard knocks, if you will, along the way. Nobody gets it easy. So, what's your comment on that, Sensei? Because that was one that come in through the messenger board a while ago. Somebody wanted me to ask you that question.
Yeah, and again, I tell my students, when we have the martial arts and the teachings that you learn, it's like gasoline. We deal with it every day. We put gas in the car or whatever, but if just a spark, it could explode in our face and be destructive to us. So in the same token, you have a responsibility, and that's part of what I teach is a responsibility. Just because I know how to hurt someone don't mean I have to. And I tell them, I said, I'm teaching you how not to fight. Once you understand how easy it is to hurt a person and how much damage you can do to a person, somebody just, saying something derogatory to you, they'll need to break their neck, So you need to have that discipline and respect of what you do so that you can control the